Welcome to another episode of Structo's Meet the Writers. This is a short form video series where we talk to the poets and writers who have contributed work to Structo 20. Today, very happy to be talking to Joseph Hardy. Hi, Joe.
Hello. Hi.
Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today. Now, you have a poem in the new issue, and you're kind enough to offer to read it for us to kick things off. So, in your own time.
The poem is called Holding On in Midlife. Everything I thought I was is bouncing, sliding across a pickup truck bed, cascading off the open tailgate, uneven bunches of me littering a receding street. If I knew the driver, I'd bang the back window, yell, slow down. If I knew which parts of me I'll need, I'd cling to those and let the others go. While here's my mother, cheerfully falling out the back end of her life, accepting each loss of strength, of continence, a reliable lucidity with gentle humor, with easy love for us who scramble to find her a safer place.
Thanks very much. I mentioned before we started recording that it's one of the lovely things about doing these videos has been hearing some of these quite personal pieces read out, and it strikes me as a very personal piece as well. Do you tend to use poetry as a way of recording life in this way?
I would say so. I find that my poems kind of fall into two categories, and one is outside in. There'll be something that I'll see that will evoke a feeling, and I can't let it go, and I'll describe it. And those seem to be poems that are easier for people to assess, to understand. And then there's the inside out. And this was an inside out poem where I was kind of struggling with some feelings about taking care of my mother with my younger sister and my brother as she kind of slipped down the various stages and steps of really advanced age. And she was an unusual character, and here we were taking care of her, and she was not really good at taking care of herself and not really super good at taking care of children. She was she was a bit of a Blanche Dubois. She was a bit, I don't know if you know this play, a bit of an Auntie Mame. She was a bit of a Peter Pan. Basically, really smart, wrote music that was published, had a radio play published, poems when she was young in national magazines, but that was when she was really young. And so it was a lot of stress taking care of her, because we were kind of all looking at each other as children going, well, you know, this wasn't exactly how it worked for us. But the other side of it is, the other part of the poem is, maybe in reaction to the chaos we grew up in, my reaction was to try to narrow the scope of my life, try to get things under control. And as a result, I found as I got to the same stage in midlife while we were taking care of her, it wasn't working as well as I thought it would. And you have to let a little chaos into your life to have a full life. So it was odd looking at her in particular, because she maintained this from the very beginning. Even as a parent, when I was very young, she was very childlike in a certain way, even though she was manipulative and super smart. There was a quality about her, a kind of innocence that was maintained all the way through to when she died at 92. So it was very strange. You know, she was easy to love. She was kind and gentle, but, you know, difficult.
And it's remarkable how much depth is captured in such a short piece.
Well, I'm glad it came across. I worried with this one that it was too oblique or too internal.
I mean, these things are very hard to talk about at the best of times, and it's this is, for me at least, for someone who, especially someone who doesn't have a formal training in poetry or anything like that, this is where poetry can be incredibly powerful in kind of getting across the subtleties or the hard to express elements of life. But yeah, to hear that and to again look at the piece, it's it's remarkable to see it
Well, great.
condensed or a slice through that thinking thought process. It's really nice to see. So you mentioned that you've come to poetry, or at least publishing poetry, relatively late. You mentioned it's really only in the last 18 months or so that you've been sending stuff out. Is that right?
That's right. I was encouraged by a friend to go to a small writing circle because she, in our interaction, she had suggested it would be good, and she knew I wanted to write. I'd wanted to write my whole life. And this writing circle, I had good feedback, and that started in about 2013. And then as I gained courage, I started sending things out, and then really went to work trying to study how to make the poems I was writing better. And so from sending out a few, say 2015, a few in 2016, I failed miserably with those. I didn't even have the right font or the right line spacing. I didn't know anything I was doing. I got serious, and at the very beginning of 2019, I started sending things out, and they started hitting, and I got some help in editing from someone who had edited a journal, a very wonderful woman who was sort of a champion for my work. And then I just put it out there.
And you've had quite a hit rate by all accounts.
Yeah, it's well, I think when I was growing up, I had the impression that publishing was a very small group of people. You had to get at least 500 copies of a book that would sell for someone to take anything on. And I know now that there's like 1,200 journals extant in the world, and such as yours, people who really care about writing. And so my feeling is it's a lot easier to get things accepted now than it was, say, 30 years ago. But yeah, let's see, I think I've had 39 poems accepted by 33 journals in the last 18 months.
Yeah, that's quite a rate. It's really nice to see.
Oh, good, thank you.
And you have a collection coming out now soon.
Yes, it should be out in a couple of days, and I'm going to shamelessly huckster it here. So if you can see that,
that's a beautiful cover.
Well, thank you. A friend of mine did it. He liked the poems, and he wanted to. So it's The Only Light Coming In,
yeah.
And it's the name of one of the poems, and it's basically all the terrible mishaps and mistakes I made in love, mostly.
Can you show me the spine? How thick are we talking in terms of?
It's not nearly as thick as it should be. There's about 80 poems in it, but I probably could have done more. I tried to balance it with some feelings from the other side, from women who were the unfortunate recipients of some of my attention.
So in the bio in the magazine, you have a line which I really liked, which is that you're one of the handful of writers living in Nashville, Tennessee, who does not play a musical instrument. How is the scene? I mean, obviously now it's slightly different, but normally, how is the poetry scene in Nashville?
Well, I think it's got a fairly good position, but music, of course, is a $9 billion industry here. It's common. Any bartender, any wait staff, even people who have regular jobs really came to Nashville to make it in music.
Right.
And they appreciate lyrics. I'm not a lyric writer, but I have a lot of friends who either came out of trying to make it in music and appreciate the writing, and one or two that are just starting to. One in particular who I think might be really successful. And we met. Somebody asked me to try to do some lyrics on a song. She basically said, "I don't need any of that," but we became friends. So. But by and large, there's a positive quality for poetry here, and places you can read, and a welcoming of the arts.
So in terms of right now, are you working on stuff, or are you just kind of doing the day-to-day like many people are?
Well, I'm lucky to be retired and not having to make money that way, and which is one of the reasons why I didn't write until the last few years because of that, making money. But yeah, I do have a series of poems that are like this one. This poem that I just read is not in the book that's coming out, but I have a bunch of poems about some strange things that happened when I grew up, and then what it feels like to take care of people as a grandparent or a parent, and just kind of the odd feelings in between. And I try to capture some of my mother was very zany, and so there are a lot of fun things that happened as well. But I think the next book will, if I can find the right tone for how to put everything together, but I think that will be the next book.
Yeah, it seems that programming a book or sorting out, yeah, contextually what you put in there is a bit of a dark art, I think.
I was really confused about it when I put in the poems for this last one. I had a ton more than I put in, and tried to figure out why would someone read it and what's the right approach. And I read various things on people doing it, and I'm with you. You know, as a person who has learned poetry late and wasn't formally trained in it, it seems to be an interesting problem. How do you put something together when they're individual pieces that come from different places, so that someone reads through it as though that there's some continuity?
Yeah, we've just basically just locked the issue to a press, the issue with this poem in, and yeah, even until yesterday, I did switch some stuff around in the running order because, yeah, it's hard. I mean, I don't think there's necessarily a right answer. It's just what feels good to you, and I think that has to be good enough, really.
I think that's the best parts of life are things that you can't get perfect.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that seems like the perfect point to end this. So thanks so much for taking the time. And issue heading to press and will be winging its way over the Atlantic in the next week or so.
Well, thanks. It's been a great pleasure meeting you via Zoom. And thank you so much for seeing what you did in the poem.
Thanks very much.